Well, good morning. It's good to see you today. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian. Here we are in the overcast days of late spring, looking forward to summer and warmer days ahead. We also look forward to our new minister, Pastor Joshua Berg, joining us, and to Reverend Chloe's last 2 months. She will be with us June and July. Today, our own Robin Arehart will deliver our reflection. Thank you for being here, Robin. My name, Leanne Hart, your worship associate for the day. Pacific Unitarian represents progressive religious thought here in the South Bay. We do welcome people of all creeds and races, sexual orientations, and gender identities. We want to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Tongva people. We strive to be better stewards of the land that we honor to inhabit. If you are here for the first time, please know that we have religious education for school-aged children and childcare for preschoolers. A warm meal will be served on the patio after service, for lunch. Gonna be one of those days. Okay, hot off the press, auction brochures. Yay, now it's getting ready. They are available on the patio after service. Please take a minute, pick them up, and they can check your name off. We don't want to have to mail too many of these. It's kind of expensive, so it's great if you pick it up. You will be able to see the auction donations to date in the brochure, but you can still sign up to donate or have an event through our online link or by talking to the people at the table. These items will be in our auction addendum. So we will see you Saturday, June 1st, 5 p.m. For new members and visitors, attending the auction and auction events is a great way to get to know members better. Remember, our flower calendar has been reactivated. Sign up by the kitchen to bring flowers for future Sundays. You share the flowers on Sunday morning and then take them back home to enjoy them for the rest of the week. Camp de Benneville hosts our family camping weekend June 7th through 9th. You know, it's not really camping because you get to stay in warm cabins with all meals prepared for you. It's pretty sweet. We so appreciate Janet and Andy Kistner, who have organized and managed all the moving parts of the activity-packed weekend for many years now. Okay, we're ready for our chalice lighting. It is now time for the words of Eric Heller Wagner. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit, touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, of community. It is the fire of love, burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow of life. So today, Robin will explore the concepts of free will versus determinism as she reflects on her experience as a student of English and psychology and as an English instructor. Robin is currently an adjunct professor at El Camino College. So if a person has free will, they are the ultimate cause of their own actions. If determinism is true, then all of a person's choices are caused by events and facts outside of their control. Let's see what Robin, her take, will be on this interesting topic. Okay, our opening hymn. Please rise as you are willing and able for Come Sing a Song with Me.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll give you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll sing a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
It's now time for the story of all ages. We invite the young and young at heart to come to the carpet for a story by Kara Craig, our coordinator of religious education.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara, and I am here to read you a story called The Wise Salimai. It's a Muslim tale from China, and this is adapted from a book written by Sarah Conover and Frida Crane. Long ago in China lived a young woman of the Muslim Hui people named Salimai. Although she was too poor to attend school, Salimai paid close attention to life around her. When an old woman in the village needed help, but was too proud to ask for it, Salimai would know just the right time to visit. When children scraped their knees, Salimai arrived to assist. Salimai possessed a wise and deep heart. Her father-in-law, a carpenter named Ali, was ordered by the emperor to make some repairs at the palace. Fearful of doing less than his best for the emperor, Ali pushed himself to work his very hardest, working both day and night, dizzy with fatigue, hands shaking, momentarily careless. Ali tipped over the emperor's precious vase. The pieces shattered in the great hall. Servants came running. Soon enough, the emperor heard the story of his ruined, priceless vase. "Bring this carpenter to me at once," he demanded. Handcuffed and escorted by 3 guards, Ali, trembling, stood before the emperor. The emperor drew his sword. As it hovered over Ali's head, Ali spoke. "Forgive me, your worship. I did not mean to break the vase. I promised to pay for it. I promised to pay." The emperor lowered his sword. "A poor wee like yourself could never replace such a treasure. Do not jest with me." "Have mercy on me," Ali begged. "I will pay." The emperor resheathed his sword. "Very well, old wee. I do not expect you to replace my vase. Instead, I will give you 10 days to find me 4 things. The first thing you must get me is something more black than the bottom of a pan. Second, you must find me something clearer than a mirror. Third, something stronger than steel. And lastly, find me something as vast as the sea. If you fail at any of these, I will chop off your head." The emperor smiled broadly, quite pleased with himself. How, Ali wondered, could I achieve these impossible tasks? Does the emperor simply wish to torture me for the last 10 days of my life? Sick with dread, he headed home. For the next week, he could neither eat nor sleep. His family knew that something was terribly amiss, but Ali would not discuss it. "Please, father," Selimai said, "what is the trouble? Perhaps we can help." Selimai at last coaxed Ali into talking. He cradled his head in his hands and wept as he named the emperor's 4 impossible tasks. Selimai responded, "This isn't a problem, father. Don't worry. I have all these things at the emperor, and when the emperor comes tomorrow, I shall present them to him myself." Ali assumed that Selimai was just trying to comfort him. He didn't want her to get in trouble with the emperor, too. "Don't be foolish, Selimai. These 4 things do not exist. The emperor just wanted to make me suffer before killing me." Selimai persisted. "Father, I really do have these things. I know you don't believe me now, but wait until tomorrow. I will show them both to you and the emperor." The next day, the emperor appeared, surrounded by troops, at Ali's door. "Old wee, come forward and give me the 4 things you owe me." Ali came outside with Selimai by his side. Selimai stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the 4 things you requested are ready to be presented. Please name them one by one." "The first thing I must have," said the emperor, "is that which is more black than the bottom of a pot." He touched the sheath of his sword with a glint in his eye. Selimai answered, "This, Your Majesty, can be found in a bottomless, greedy heart." The emperor hid his surprise. This girl, he reassured himself, cannot be so smart. She's just a farm girl. "The next thing you must present is something more clear than a mirror. Do you have that?" Selimai answered, "Yes, knowledge offers a clarity greater than any mirror." The emperor stammered, "Do you have something stronger than steel to give me?" "Love," said Selimai, "is the strongest thing in the world." The emperor made his last request. "What do you have that could possibly be as vast as the sea?" "A virtuous heart is as vast as the sea, Your Majesty." Selimai smiled. Flustered and humbled, the emperor sputtered, "It's time to leave. Old wee, you are hereby pardoned." He turned to his troops and shouted, "March!" As the emperor distanced himself, Selimai held her father-in-law's hand. Together, she and Ali bowed in relief and gratitude to Allah. Because of her wise heart, Ali could now live a long and happy life. The end.
We are now ready for candles of joy and sorrow. We invite the congregation to come forward to receive a candle and share a brief personal announcement. Remember, a joy shared is multiplied, a sorrow divided. You may also light a candle in silence. Candle for all the unspoken joys and sorrows.
These words come to us from Reverend Erica Hewitt. Almost everyone here, especially those who have any experience with 12-step groups, knows the prayer known as the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Few people know that this prayer's origin had a slightly different wording. God, give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Even fewer people know that the prayer, first offered in about 1943, quote, is bound up in the war against one of the greatest evils posed during a violently evil century. Reinhold Niebuhr was an American theologian whose prominence lasted for decades in the mid-1900s. He was ordained to the ministry of the Evangelical Synod, served as a pastor, and then became a professor at the Union Theological Seminary. Some of you have heard his name because President Barack Obama named Niebuhr as his favorite theologian. Niebuhr was rare for his time. He was a political activist, As Europe descended into the war in the 1940s, Reinhold Niebuhr was one of the few clergy in the U.S. to denounce anti-Semitism, and Niebuhr came to be a leading advocate for U.S. entry into World War II. This prayer reveals a theological tension at the heart of Niebuhr's ethics. He believed in the roots of evil in human life and the good that could be achieved if we human beings rose to the good that we're capable of. Says one admirer, no one in America was espousing such a theological perspective at that time, certainly not with the eloquence and authority that he did. You can hear Niebuhr's realistic view of human nature in the line, serenity to accept the things that cannot be changed, and his idealistic commitment to social justice in the line, courage to change the things that should be changed. The third line, the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other, reflects humility and discernment. As we prepare for the devotional time of lifting up your own struggles and the choices that you make about courage and acceptance, I invite you to pray this prayer out loud with me. I'm going to recite it twice and then allow us to enter into silent meditation. I'll leave the prayer up so that you can, Kelly will leave the prayer up so that you can read it during that silence if you wish. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And let's read it again. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Please remain seated for our centering hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. It If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
I was really surprised when Pastor Josh preached about free will 2 weeks ago. We must be tapping into the same zeitgeist. We are of an age. So enjoy sermon number 2 in this spring's series on free will. This poem is by Brooke Hampton. I am pieces of all the places I have been and the people I have loved. I've been stitched together by song lyrics, book quotes, adventure, late night conversations, moonlight, and the smell of coffee. Is this beautiful or haunting? Am I merely the sum of my experiences, or is there an essential self in there someplace? I've always loved psychology and philosophy because I love to think about these ideas, questions of ontology, my being in the world. I love these ideas so much, in fact, that I teach my intro composition course at El Camino College around such topics. My course theme is success. We research and write about internal factors of success, such as perseverance, emotional intelligence, and optimism. We look at external factors such as social support, generational wealth, and opportunities. We consider which of these factors are within our control and which are not. And at the end of the semester, every student writes their own theory of success, however they define it, and whatever combination of factors best works for them. I've had nursing students explore what it takes to succeed as a first-generation nursing student of color. I've had business students research what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in the field. And I've had 80-year-old returning students research how people succeed at recovery from addiction. Each person is unique, and each person needs to convince themselves of something different in order to make life work for them. Maybe one person will, through research, reinforce the idea that more is within their power to control than they originally thought, that they can change themselves for the better through taking on a growth mindset or by reaching out for mentors and support programs at the college. Maybe another might revise their expectations about what defines success in the first place. Maybe still another person might realize that their heroes, who are supposedly self-made titans of industry or politics, had a lot more advantages and support from early on in life, and therefore not to be so hard on themselves for not reaching the stars yet. I never know what the result will be, but my hope is that students have a more nuanced understanding of how people achieve success than they enter the class with, and that their answer goes far beyond their original, often more simplistic ideas of people can achieve anything and everything through tireless hard work, or because winner take all capitalism sucks so bad, there is no longer any hope for social mobility in the US. Even though I have taught my curriculum on success for many years now, I still don't know the answer. But I guess that's what makes it a topic that's appropriate for my students. There is a continuum between free will and determinism, and I suggest to you that there is no one true answer to where on this continuum the truth of reality lies, since every one of us, at every single moment in our lives, has, feels, and needs a different level of control over what is happening to us and in the world around us. Part of my fascination for this topic comes from the wild change in viewpoint I had on ideas of the self and one's agency during my schooling. When I first graduated high school in 1988, I was an extremely self-confident young person. There was very little I thought I could not do in the world. Though I was aware of sexism and racism, I didn't think these necessarily limited anyone, since my friends and I were white and black and Latina, male and female, and we were able to overcome lots of obstacles within our small town, lower middle class high school setting and excel. I was a devotee of Ayn Rand. I had a very strong sense of self. Though very much a philosophical and stare into space, thinking about things sort of person, I refused to define myself as an introvert and went about being student council president and editor of the paper, honestly believing I might be editor of the New York Times or a senator someday. Then I got to Swarthmore College, a small liberal arts college with one of the highest study hours per student, where I proceeded to take a bunch of courses in English and psychology, my majors. My studies led me away from my intense individualism to a very different way to conceptualize the self, as socially constructed. In English classes, we read modernist and then postmodern novels and poems. If you don't know what these terms mean, basically, writers started to progressively mess around with the traditional forms of poetry and novels. They'd shift the narrator without warning, like in a Faulkner novel, or go in and out of time periods, like in Toni Morrison's Beloved. The reader may wonder, what is a plot? Anyway, because I really have no idea what's going on with all these unreliable narrators, and reality is relative and subjective. This is ultimately one step away from who am I, and where does myself end, and where do others begin? In psychology, I learned about all the environmental forces at work in the shaping of an individual. In developmental, cognitive, social, clinical, linguistic, and personality psychology, every individual trait was part of a larger pattern. Every variable was culturally dependent. I learned how our very identities were shaped by parents, peers, language, media, and culture. I graduated older and wiser. Swarthmore had taught me that the identity I once held so dear was nothing more than a socially constructed notion of the self. It was somehow disempowering and maybe a little depressing. And after 4 years steeped in books and theories, I think the world outside the ivory tower overwhelmed me. During my very first year of being an English teacher, I worked in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The school was only 4 short miles from my house, but seemed to be another world entirely from the high school I had attended. I taught 9th grade students who read at the 3rd grade level. My students grew up in poverty and violence. Many had parole officers. Many had seen family members shot in front of them. I felt so critical of how the world around them had restricted their lives. I wanted to shout out about all they had learned, but the words died on my lips. My knowledge about how my students were not to blame for their circumstances seemed useless. Would knowing the bad deal life had dealt them help? Instead of talking about all the roadblocks, we talked about what students could control. We talked about their goals to go to college and become a doctor or a pharmacist. Sure, you can do anything you set your mind to, we said. But if it is true that we have little to no free will due to the powerful forces of our environment, then we were being dishonest. We felt that encouragement was more important than honesty, though. Shoot for the stars, reach the moon, we reasoned. Luckily, my perspective on this and many other topics has matured, at least somewhat. However, like any good Unitarian, I am still searching for the answers. I recently read a book on this topic by a Stanford neuroscientist, Robert Sapolsky, called Determined: Life Without Free Will. He also wrote Behave, which some of you may have read. Sapolsky explains how each year, more and more neurological research uncovers links between how we behave in the world and how some little neuron in our brain is being affected by a combination of genes and environment. So when we think we're making a choice, it's just what we ate for breakfast. For example, Sapolsky explains that in a study of over 1,000 decisions by judges, the longer it has been since the judges had eaten lunch, the less likely they were to grant a prisoner parole. Judges went from giving 65% of the prisoners parole after lunch all the way down to 0% at the end of the day. It's 1,000 judges. Talk about being hangry. According to Sapolsky, it's biology and environment that are really in control of decisions, not you. It's the oxytocin, serotonin, and testosterone. It's the glucocorticoids with the frontal cortex neurons and the amygdala that guide your way in the world. And of course, it's our environment, whether that's foul food odors, frightening images, or toxic stressors that direct how we behave in the world. It's not that we could predict our behaviors, because there are just too many inputs to keep track of, as well as some chaos occurring in the world and at the cellular level. But Sapolsky says that the more science builds an accelerating pile of know-how on the brain, the more we realize that people are really not at fault for the often bad decisions they make. He draws a parallel to epilepsy, which we now understand to be a medical problem, which people used to think was possession by the devil. He cites that our society now better understands that alcoholism and obesity and gambling are diseases, not moral failings. And Sapolsky even goes on to point out that roughly half of the people incarcerated for violent antisocial crimes have a history of traumatic brain injury. Faulty wiring, a violent and stressful upbringing, and bad luck all leads murderers to murder. After all, hurt people hurt people. The result, no more moralizing about people's choices, since people are not freely making choices at all. They're responding to the biology and environment. Not judging people? At first, this might sound pretty you, but there are some problems. No self? I'm a Unitarian. How can I search for my individual truth and meaning if I don't have an identity and cannot make my own choices? Unitarian churches are full of the biggest bunch of individualistic individuals being uniquely unique that I ever heard of. With the exception of a few of our most Buddhist members, most of us love self-expression and are quite wedded to the idea of a self. In fact, I know many of you quite well, and there are some pretty solid egos in this room. There are a few reasons we might not want to dispense with the idea of a self. First of all, Sapolsky himself admits there is lots of research showing how people who feel they're not in control of their lives, who acquire a sense of learned helplessness, actually become depressed, don't try as much in life, and give up. There is a reason why we all have a sense of identity, why we feel a sense of continuity in our lives. My students use academic studies in their final research papers on success factors and often explore how helpful it is to have a positive outlook and growth mindset and to possess agency, purpose, and self-efficacy. These types of results are just as pervasive in psychology research today as are the neurotransmitter studies, which seem to indicate that we are really not in control. Those of you who heard my Kaleidoscope of Truth sermon from a few years ago may remember that the way a researcher frames their questions is what determines the kinds of answers they get. And this is why it was so great when researchers turned from research on human deficits and problems to research on human abilities and strengths in what we know as positive psychology. We learned that everyone from little children to older people can learn new skills and mindsets. People are capable of doing so much more when we ask the right questions and provide the right kinds of support. It's also important to note that Sapolsky spends a long time discussing how different conditions in the brain reduce our abilities to be in control of our decisions in the way we want to be, through hunger or brain damage or a surge of the wrong hormone at the wrong time. But perhaps science will do more than uncover reasons why we have less control. Perhaps neuroscience will take the turn that psychology did when we went from studying dysfunction and all that can go wrong to studying positive psychology. Maybe neuroscientists can spend more time, not on describing limitations, but on learning how to help people with damage or imbalance become more in control and more fully their ideal selves. In many of his beliefs, Sapolsky is a lot like a lot of people in this room. He's a secular humanist. In fact, Sapolsky wrote his book because he wants to stop people from judging others unfairly, because not everyone has the same advantages. He's correct. We know that America is not a level playing field, especially for those in our criminal justice system who are often at a neurological and environmental disadvantage. Recognizing this is a very Unitarian sentiment. It is great to lead with understanding and sympathy, not judgment. It's our first principle, that there is inherent worth and dignity in every person. At the same time, as Unitarians, we also need to have justice. Justice is so important that it is mentioned in both the second and sixth principle. And we cannot have justice if there is not individual accountability, can we? We have to be responsible for our own actions. In fact, many of you read the congregation-wide book pick on repentance and repair. At first, I thought, I am reading a book on individual responsibility. This must be the complete opposite of my other book. And so my books started talking to each other. There is no free will. There is free will because there's individual responsibility. But then by the end of her book, Danya Ruttenberg leads us from individual atonement towards restorative justice, which is ideally a repair at the community level. Ruttenberg writes, "It's impossible to talk about crime and punishment and consequences and accountability and repentance without talking about the larger systems in which people are embedded. We do not cause harm in isolation. We cannot be held accountable in isolation, and we cannot do the hard work of repentance, transformation, and change in isolation." In this way, Ruttenberg is not getting rid of the notion of the self, she is expanding it. We are part of our environment, which in turn shapes us and others. We are responsible to help shape our larger community to be better. Helping that community is how we can best have respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Our seventh principle. Rottenberg goes on to ask, what would our society look like if we focused on addressing the root causes of significant harm, including poverty, systemic racism, and other drivers of trauma and violence, if we help those who are struggling for whatever reason in whatever way before they potentially offend? I know that I have come to church sometimes and heard this message and felt overwhelmed. I have thought, I can barely take care of myself and my family. How can I prepare the world? At other times, I want to take on that world to help others as best I can, and that purpose gives me hope. I do believe that there are so many ways to view the world and our place in it, that ultimately we must believe what works for us at the present moment to move us forward. Life is, in fact, a postmodern novel. Shifting from narrator to narrator, it lacks coherent structure. Only we can make sense of the plot. It is up to us to figure out what it all means for ourselves and to help each other do so. From Toni Morrison's Beloved, she is a friend of my mind. She gather me, man. The pieces I am, she gather them and give them back to me in all the right order. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. You gave us a lot to think about. Okay, time for the offertory. Since May is Mental Health Month, today we again offer you the opportunity to support mental health in our community by contributing to the split plate for the National Alliance on Mental Health. NAMI provides support groups, education, and helplines. It is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. Your offering will be gratefully received. Please join me in reading the affirmation of gratitude. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us also be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. Please stand as you are willing and able for our closing hymn, 305, De Colores.
All the colors, yes, the colors we see in the springtime with all of its flowers. All the colors, when the sunlight shines out through a rift in the cloud and it showers. All the colors, as the rainbow appears when a storm cloud is touched by the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors, yes, the colors of people parading on by with their banners. All the colors, yes, the colors of mints and streamers and plumes and bandanas. All the colors, yes, the colors of people now taking their place in the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors, yes, the black and the white and the red and the brown and the yellow. All the colors, all the colors of people who smile and shake hands and say hello. All the colors, yes, the colors of people who know that their freedom is won. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es al arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Los amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí.
Please remain standing. Join hands if you are comfortable to do so.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom, shalom, namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Stay tuned for the postlude.